Welcome to CardsChat, the friendliest poker podcast in town from the world's #1 poker community. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Robbie Straczynski. Thank you so much for joining us on episode number 125 of CardsChat, the friendliest poker podcast in town. Today's guest is a longtime poker professional and mixed game specialist with close to $7 million in career tournament earnings. He won his first WSOP bracelet at the 2012 8-game mix before grabbing gold again in 2019 in the $1,500 limit hold'em event. Plus, he's also got a WPT title in his trophy case. We're, of course, talking about David ODB Baker, and on today's show, we'll learn more about his career as well as a little about his life away from the felt. David, welcome to the CardsChat podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. Nice to get to speak with you a little bit. We've interacted very briefly, and I kind of feel bad. I wish I had a little bit more time to talk, but sometimes you're in the middle of playing, some good games over there, and I'm grateful for this hour to get to know you a little better.
Yeah, no problem. I know we've crossed paths many a times at the mixed game series that you run at Resorts World, and I'm usually playing with your good friend Elliot Lazara. He's usually beating me up at the poker table, so I'm usually bruised and battered by the time you see me. So
we're not results oriented. It's all about so let's address the obvious and get this one just sort of out of the way before we continue. You, of course, share a name with another very popular and successful player, David Baker. Bakes, you've cashed in the same events. You've both kind of climbed the poker ladder in the poker world roughly at the same time, and you've literally needed the nicknames yourself, ODB, as opposed to Bakes, to keep yourselves apart in the poker media and the public eye. When was the first time you were aware that there was this other David Baker, and what are your thoughts about his poker game?
Well, I'm not sure the exact year, but it was back in the heyday, probably maybe 12, 13, 11, somewhere in that area. There was a Bellagio WPT event, and I wasn't even in Vegas then, and he was high in the leaderboard and was getting deep, and I was getting texts and stuff, and that's when I first knew. And then and then he's turned into be a crusher. I know he's got multiple bracelets and a lot of high places and high finishes, and has been very successful in his own right. So he's an excellent player. I don't have anything. This is the friendliest podcast, right? So I'm not supposed to come on here and say I hate that guy, heads up for rules, or anything like that, right? No, he's a nice guy, and we always have fun with it at the table and whatever. It's fun for the reporters to try to figure it out. I happened to go on Hendon Mob because I was trying to search for something for just something I had to write down of where I had finished in this event, and I had forgotten. And he's currently has like 3 of my caches on his Hendon Mob now from last month. So, they still can't get it right. I mean, I've only been in the business 20 years, and he's been in probably 12 to 15. So you would think eventually they'd be able to figure out which is which, but nope, we're still having those issues in year 20. So
Eric,
probably never go away.
Eric, Denis, Kevin Mathers, if you're listening, our good friends at the Hendon Mob, we'll get you in touch with David and make those corrections. The right David. Your background is very different from poker, although we've seen in recent years the careers in finance and business and sales. They do have a little bit of a crossover as far as just obvious skills that would transfer. Is that at all anything that contributed to you adopting poker and wanting to play it? Or is it when you decided to make the transition into poker that you really feel like, okay, this is going to be something wildly different than I've done up until now?
I don't think it really has any result of past educational or major or things like that. I mean, I lived a normal middle class life, and my parents, we moved around a lot, and I went to college and got a finance degree, but I played sports growing up a lot. I mean, I played competitive baseball, basketball, soccer. I was really good at tennis and golf. not really good, but good enough. I was on, high school teams there and went off to college, went to, a major university and, played intramural sports, was real competitive and would play, card games and stuff. And my parents, fell in love with Vegas when I was a kid and, we started like just learning like table games and stuff. And my dad would have, nickel dime quarter poker night at the house or whatever. So I was always kind of around it, but I went to school and we didn't really like play that much, but occasionally we did. And my best friend, he's like, "Man, I saw this thing on ESPN, this Hold'em, this World Series of Poker," and I kind of heard of it and watched like episode or whatever, and kind of liked it. But then just finished school, went and got a job, and I lived in Louisiana in New Orleans when the riverboat casinos were kind of just coming up,
Mhm.
and they had poker rooms and I would go in there and I would play and just degen. I mean, I was a gambler and I was, and I loved games, so I would go and play. I mean, I was terrible. But I just started playing a little bit and then I got transferred with my company to Houston and lived there and then had multiple jobs and I would just kind of play. I went to, I would drive to Louisiana and play in the boats and I got introduced. I met somebody at the boat who had a game in Houston, and he brought me to the game, and I met my best friend in poker, and we grew up together in poker, Ray Henson. I'm sure everybody out there who follows poker knows him. And just started playing more and more, and his game was like really soft. I mean, we were playing $10, $20 limit hold'em, and I was making like six figures playing, in my job, and I was starting to make more money playing like, 4 or 5 nights a week at $10,
Wow.
$20 limit hold'em, which is kind of crazy when you think about it,
Yeah.
just where poker is today and how hard it is to survive, playing like mid to high stakes. That was like low stakes back then with massive rake and tipping and house games and stuff like that. And poker was just a different animal back then. And I just kind of had a knack for it and had a job and just wasn't really into the job. I mean, I couldn't wait
Mhm.
to leave and just go to the poker room afterwards and I just started doing well and I was like, I told my wife at the time, I'm like, I'm going to give this thing a shot. And every 6 months we'll reevaluate where we are. And, if I'm failing, because she was, never had anything gamble. We had a young kid and she was not like a gambler and really didn't understand like the whole gambling lifestyle.
Right.
Um, and so, yeah, I just did that. And I said, every 6 months we'll reevaluate. And, it was a lot of tough times because, I lived in Houston, Texas, where there really wasn't legal, where there wasn't legal gambling.
Right.
And I would just constantly fly back and forth to LA or Vegas and play poker games there. And, it was tough to support a family and do all that. And then eventually, we went our separate ways because she didn't really understand this poker lifestyle. And
Mhm.
um, my new wonderful wife, we've been married, just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. We
Congratulations.
thanks. She was extremely supportive of the whole poker thing and understood it and kind of, even though she had never really gambled in her life. It doesn't even really have that bug. She just kind of understood and got it. She got me and understood that this is kind of just in you. I mean, some people it's just in you. That's just who you are, and it's just kind of who I am.
Right.
Um, I hear people say all the time, if I won the main event, I'd never play again, or just stupid comments like that. And it's like, if I played the main event, I'd play more. I mean, I love it.
Right.
I love the game, and I think that's something that probably just stems from my background and where I came from. I mean, you get these kids who come in, they don't know anything but poker and at 16 they're making money online and doing all these things and then maybe they got some money in the crypto boom or whatever and they're playing poker and they never really had to work for anything and then they suffer tough times and they can't handle it. And I've been through the ringer. I mean, I've been
Yeah.
through this thing 20 years. I've supported my family, my past family, which is my ex-wife and my daughter, who I have a great relationship with, and my
Mhm.
current wife and her children, and I supported them not living in a poker not living in a poker town, and
Right.
yeah. So I mean, I just I just did it the love of the game, you know. I mean, I truly love it. I mean, as soon as we hang up this call, I'm driving to Resorts World and gonna play in poker game there. So
Nice.
um it's kind of in my blood. It's what I do and what I am. So
At some point, while you're playing in these 10, 20 games in, I guess, Houston, you said, at what point did you say to yourself, I I can do this professionally? And again, like, you couldn't have known it at the time, but retrospect is like, obviously poker gets tough. Did you just really feel, okay, I could print forever? Because that's a very big decision to make, regardless of all the other circumstances, to leave the steady, regular 9 to 5 job.
yeah, I worked for 10 years and I had I think like four or five jobs in
Mm,
10 years, and I just never really found where I was. So
mm,
I really wasn't giving up much because I knew that I could probably come back to it and do it. But yeah, I mean, I did. I mean, it was crazy the stats that I would do back then. I used to track my results. I don't now. I'm not a tracker, and I know a
interesting.
lot of people, a lot of pros that just can't believe that or whatever. But I'm not a tracker.
Mhm.
But I used to track back then, and I mean, I was winning like 95% of my sessions, and I was winning, 500 to 1,500 every time. I mean, I literally just thought like I couldn't, like I was the best thing that ever happened to me. It's crazy. But I would take trips to Vegas and I'd play the 1020 and the 20 and occasionally the 2040 at the Mirage. And I would go to Hollywood Park in LA. And then eventually I discovered Commerce, and that became basically my home, my poker home. I mean, I probably spent 200 days a year in the Commerce Hotel, staying there, flying back and forth to Houston, and then eventually Arizona when I met my current wife. And yeah, I would just, I played 40-80 at Commerce, and then eventually, moved up and was playing the 100-200, and
Right.
then learned mixed games and all that. So yeah,
That's
I did kind of feel like I could just kind of do it. I don't know. I kind of had a
mhm.
knack for it. I mean, from the beginning, I was kind of a little bit ahead of my time, not like necessarily in the whole poker world, but in my
Right.
poker world.
Hmm.
Um, Ray has a funny story. So he was in Reno, Nevada, playing these $300 tournaments, and it wasn't at his game. It was him and his partner, and his partner recruited me and my friend at the casino and brought us to his game. And he says that his buddy was like, "Man, you've got to get back here to Houston. I've got two live ones, and they're going to keep this game going. They're going to pump money. They got real jobs, and they're terrible." And so Ray kind of flew back a little early, and he said he told his buddy after like day two, he was like, David's not a fish. He's gonna absolutely destroy this game.
Uh-huh.
And his buddy it was like, no, no way, he's terrible. Because like I was just, I was three betting and just doing different things that like really hadn't been seen in that area. I'm sure it
Hmm.
had obviously been done by, the top players and stuff, and kind of, obviously I was terrible probably in today's day, you know, but back then, I mean,
Hmm.
I was really pretty good. So,
Right.
yeah, I just it's funny when our friendship just kind of, and I always told him I was like I want to be like you, like I just want to
Mhm.
travel and play these tournaments and play poke, and we did. I mean, we traveled together for a good 15, 18 years. I mean, up until about 5 years ago. And I mean, I
Hmm.
still see Ray a lot. I mean, we still meet up at stops occasionally, and he comes out obviously for the World Series. And,
Hmm.
um, we were very big in the LAPC
Hmm.
and at Commerce when that was strong. So, yeah, I mean, I really kind of thought that it would kind of go,
Hmm.
forever.
Well,
It has so far, but, there've been a lot of bumps in the road.
sure. Well, we talked, quite a bit about as far as cash games basically being your thing, your go-to. I'd say, obviously, as much tournament success as you've had, cash games are the real, sort of bread and butter. Playing multiple times a week. Why has that sort of appealed to you more than tournaments over the years?
I really do enjoy tournaments, honestly, but a couple reasons. I mean, one, I did play tournaments a lot. I mean, I traveled for tournaments, but cash games are just more consistent. I mean, I had to bring
Mm,
money home, and
right.
so yeah, it's just also I felt really comfortable with the commerce.
Hmm.
Um, I knew the staff there well. I knew the player pool. Um, I had relationships with the people in the hotel, so I would, always get, one of the better rooms there. And um, it was just kind of where my comfort lied. But I mean, I definitely fell in love with tournaments. I mean, my
Hmm.
tournament results are pretty good for a guy who
Yep.
didn't travel around the world playing tournaments all the time. I
Sure.
mean, at the end of the day, I've had a family my entire poker career, whether it was my ex-wife and my daughter, or my current wife and her kids, and my daughter as well. Um, so it's really tough to give up, your weeks to go play tournaments. Where there's not cash, where you can't do cash games and stuff.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I've done my fair share. I mean, lately I've kind of, obviously COVID kind of slowed all the traveling
Hmm.
down and all that stuff too. So
Hmm.
it's tough to really say. But I mean, come World Series time, I mean, I'm always all about the tournaments.
For
I mean,
sure.
that's really been my thing, and I've mostly. I've gone out to a lot of the LA tournaments, and
Hmm.
there was a time where I was chasing some of the smaller tournaments because my wife and we would like to go to these small towns, and
Hmm.
I really enjoy like the small town big tournament type
Hmm.
stuff. Not like the giant tournaments, but one of my favorite places to go was Black Hawk, Colorado.
Oh
Golden
wow.
Gates had like nice little tournaments there, and it was just a nice little place that my wife and I could get away
Huh.
and didn't have all the LA stuff or the Vegas stuff, and
Right.
could go find like little sandwich shops and just hang out before the tournament. And I always enjoy playing with. So one of my things is I really do enjoy poker, and I feel like I have done my part to help grow the game and be a somewhat of an ambassador for the game, because I do enjoy it and I do love it. And one of the things that I liked about going there and to WinStar in Oklahoma and Choctaw and all these little places was like the people there gear up all year long for this 1 week,
Yep.
and they're so excited to play, and they're so
Hmm.
excited to play with you, if you're a name or face in this industry. And I just always enjoyed that. I mean, I'm not you'll very rarely see me with headphones on at the table. I'm not saying I don't. There are times where, like, there's a podcast I really want to listen to, or somebody tilted me, or I'm tired or something. But I would say at least 90% of the time you're going to find me without headphones on.
Hmm.
And that's just because I like to interact at the table. And
Right.
so going to these small towns, like, it was always fun to me to just sit and talk with people and get to know like their story, and
Hmm.
answer questions and things like that. And I think that's kind of bode well for me and like
Right.
the court of public opinion. I mean, I think I have a pretty good reputation in this business.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to say I'm above reproach on that. I mean, I've gotten tilted and said something like to somebody occasionally, but for the most part, I think I handle myself pretty well at the table. So 98% of the people that have played with me, I'm sure, have had pretty good experiences. So
Nice. Just a timeline question. At what point did you move to Vegas?
I actually just moved to Vegas after COVID.
Oh, it's brand new. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, like 2 years ago.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean, we always had, my wife and I always had a plan. I mean, our plan was both of our kids, we actually have daughters that were 6 weeks, born 6 weeks apart.
Oh
So
wow.
we always said when they move to college, out when they finish high school, we were going to move to LA. And
Hmm.
that was going to finally be the first time that I ever lived where poker was. And I was
Uh-huh.
very excited. I was very excited about that because it's hard. Like when you go away, and you have to, play because you're only there 10 days, and then you're going to be 10 days away from poker. Like, you don't want to give up a day to go play golf or an evening to go have a dinner. And
Right. It's a limited resource. Yeah.
yeah, I just like time was my most important asset, and I needed
Mm,
to use that to make money. So I was always excited to live where there was poker. So if I needed to leave early to, go home for dinner, or if I, or if, friend want to play golf or something, I could do those things. So we were always going to move to LA. I mean, that was our home. That was
mm,
basically our home away from home. I mean, we spent so much time there. And then, COVID hit, and it started to get to where the live games in LA weren't quite as good. Most of my friends there had young kids, whereas in Vegas, most of my friends were kind of done with the children thing.
Hmm.
Um, I started to really play a lot more golf, and getting tee times and getting to and from the course in LA traffic is a nightmare.
Yeah, sure.
Property values, taxes, and everything. So
Sure. Yeah.
I think if COVID wouldn't have hit, we'd probably be in LA, honestly,
Hmm.
because it was never really even a thought to do anything else.
Hmm.
But like we're stuck in our Arizona home for like 6 months, a year, and we were just sitting out on the patio one day, and I was like, have you ever considered like Vegas? Maybe we don't need this LA lifestyle. And she was
Hmm.
like, I've always liked Vegas, but it's kind of hot. And
Yeah. Here in
but we're
Arizona.
here, yeah, but we're like we already spend the hottest months here anyway with the World
Right.
Series, so it's not like that bad. And we just, we went from 100% LA to 90% LA to 80% LA
Huh.
to 0% LA, kind of like in a few week period. And we were just like, what?
Wow.
I think let's do this Vegas thing and give it a
Cool.
try. So we did, and it's been a good decision. I mean, uh, I think the cash games might be a little bit better in LA, but the lifestyle here is a lot better.
So what
Um,
types of stuff do you like to do when you're not playing poker, together with whack? Like, you said you like to go to those little towns as well, but now you've got a new home. So what do you enjoy?
yeah, I haven't really been traveling much since I moved here to Vegas, honestly,
Right.
just because I mean, I've traveled a couple times recently just because I wanted to get some reps in before the World Series.
Hmm.
But other than that, I really have not been traveling because there's plenty of poker here.
Yep.
Um, but I forgot the question. I'm
And what
sorry. I
types
just
of stuff do you
spaced
like to
out.
do outside of poker, like
Oh,
lifestyle wise in the city and stuff?
yeah. So I mean, I play golf a couple times a week.
Hmm.
We got a big group of us that like to play golf, and so a couple days a week we play golf. I mean, I play poker probably 5 days a week now. Um, we do dinners and stuff. Football is a passion. I absolutely love the NFL and football, and
Hmm.
I've been doing a lot more stuff within the football area, and my really close friend here, Mark Gregorich, has a great setup at his house for football watching. So every Sunday and any major games or
Nice.
playoffs, I'm over there and we do cookouts and stuff. He's a great chef, and so yeah, I mean that's kind of it. It's basically
Cool.
football, poker, golf, dinners. I mean, it's not a bad life. I'm not gonna
Sounds
lie.
pretty good.
Yeah, it's a
No, but
pretty
also
good life.
it's something that, like you said, you had obviously put family first for so many years. It's a nice stage to be at, to now be able to do, a little more what you personally want to do, now that family's kind of taken care of, age-wise and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean it's great. I mean I've earned this. If honestly, not to toot my own horn, but I think very, 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 very few people could have done what I've done over the last 20 years, and
Hmm.
that is just grind, support multiple families. I've supported my friends in times of need, and I've kind of suffered for it, honestly. I don't have the big bankroll and everything that you would think based on results and time in the business and everything, but the one thing that I also do have is I have a wonderful family and I have a sterling reputation. I've never taken advantage of anybody in this business, and you know, very few people can say that have survived kind of what I have.
Hmm.
Um, I'd never had like that big life changing tournament score.
Hmm.
Even though I have like 7 million in earnings, like they all came, slowly over the
Yeah,
years,
sure.
grinding out 30,000, 50,000, $100,000 wins on tournaments. And
Yeah.
yeah, everybody, you can say, oh, that's a lot or whatever, but in the grand scheme of things, when you're, supporting an ex-wife, a child, and a current family and all those things, and travel expenses and entry fees and all the things you don't see, entry fees and things like that, lack of sleep, all that stuff, you know to still be alive at almost age 51 now, and in this industry with a sterling reputation and pretty good results, I'm pretty proud of what I've accomplished in this business.
I'm happy. I mean, it's not tooting your own horn, and I'm really happy that you elaborated on that. This is episode number 125. We see so many different sorts of industry personalities, players, men, women, young, old, and it's always so interesting to hear everyone's story. And the fact is, the type of stuff that you touched upon, they don't always give out trophies for that kind of stuff. It's not the kind of thing
Right.
you're gonna have a bracelet for, or like a nice piece of crystal or a Remington or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, you're making a gigantic difference to some very important people who matter to you, and that's I think something that a lot of us can take from your experience. So more power to you, and that's pretty awesome. We're recording this just prior to the World Series. It'll probably come out late in the World Series, but with it coming up, kind of wondering what do you remember about the first time you played at the WSOP? Back then, it was back at Binion's in 2004.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember a few things there. You know, I remember a little bit of business. I remember, the my first main event there. I had a client in my business, and she was a poker fan and saw like I don't know, I'd cashed some tournament Tunica
Uh-huh.
or something like that or whatever. And she started talking to me about poker and everything. And she was like, "You want to play the World Series?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, hopefully one day I will." And she was like, "I have a free room at the Golden Nugget. I'll give you 5,000 and you go play. You put up
Wow,
5,000 and go
that's
play."
cool.
And I was like, she was like a client of mine.
Uh-huh.
And so I went out and played, and the advice I got from a friend was, just take a lot of stabs at pots, and
Hmm.
so I did, and I ended up just basically stabbing myself out of the tournament. I mean, you only got 10,000, you only got 10,000 in chips back then, and
Right.
I would just like, flop would come, I'd bet, and then they'd call, and I'd bet again, and they'd raise, and I'd fold, and it was just went on, and I mean, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I mean,
Right.
I was kind of lost, but I think I might have even done something in a limit event. I might have got deep either the first or second year there. Um, I remember playing like a $200 nightly or something up there, and I either won or got top three or something. And
Sure.
um, I met a really good friend of mine at the first World Series I went to, Greg FBT Mueller,
Hmm.
who I'm sure you're familiar with, and most of your
Sure.
listeners are. And funny enough, he was one of the first people that I met in poker that kind of became something in poker. And
Hmm.
he was kind of just starting out at that point too. And we just became friends. And funny enough, I beat him heads up for my first bracelet. So
Yep.
um, that was kind of a fun thing. But yeah, I met him and Ray.
Mhm.
Ray was out there with me, and we just kind of, yeah, it was cool. It was fun.
And as far as like those first impressions, as far as I mean, that's pretty different than like a small game in Houston, that 10-20. It's different than LA. Was there any sort of like a wow, deer in the headlights intimidation factor when you first started playing in these big events, or was it just another poker game? Were you able to zone that out?
Uh, Honestly, I don't even really remember. I mean,
Hmm.
I remember some of the visions and the images, and like I could picture things. I remember there was a guy from Shreveport, Louisiana. His name was Barbecue or BBQ, and I'm sure there's people who've listened who know who he is, and like he was just kind of a character or whatever. And I met him, and like I ended up like seeing him in Tunica afterwards and stuff.
Uh,
And um, but yeah, I don't really know. I don't really remember being that nervous or anything, but I probably was.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, I don't really necessarily remember like how I felt at the time.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
So we can fast forward to now, though. I mean, you said there's plenty of poker here in Vegas, and obviously it's as you said, something you love to do, and just something that you have a natural knack for. You play 5 times a week. When the World Series comes around, it kind of gets the whole poker world excited. Can you kind of like describe what that excitement is like as a professional player? Because, like you said, you could just kind of go and play anytime you want to. What's special to you about the World Series coming up?
I mean, the thing about the World Series is it's really where all the greats are measured. I mean,
Mm.
I know that the brand has somewhat diluted itself with the bracelet events and the extra events and all the events and all the circus stuff and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, there's only one time a year where every professional and good amateur comes together and competes, and it's not always no limit hold'em. It's every form of poker that you can think of for the most part. And it's just a chance to really go and test yourself. And then it's really just been made a lot more fun over the last, 5, 10 years with the evolution of fantasy poker.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that.
and I've been pretty instrumental with that too. I hooked up with Daniel early. I mean, he always did the 25K fantasy pool, but I didn't really have the money to do that when I first started getting into it. And funny enough, I did fantasy poker before I ever even played a hand of the World Series.
Oh, no
I
kidding.
remember I can still remember today drafting our my brother and I and his friend.
Uh-huh.
I can still remember in the office, we drafted 20 players each for the World Series main event. And this was back before I started playing there. So probably
Wow.
2002, maybe.
Wow.
And I remember like Negrano and Matisau were like top 10 picks. And I think TJ Cloutier went number two. And it was like Johnny Chan, TJ Cloutier. And I still remember this was the year before he won, but I drafted Greg Raymer in my fantasy pool the year before he won because I used
Wow.
to read like his posts on RGP or whatever it
Sure.
was. Yeah,
Rec
RGP.
poker, right?
And
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, so I've been doing that for a while. But anyway, back to poker now and fantasy
Uh-huh.
poker now is
Yeah.
Daniel had this draft. I always wanted to be part of it. My buddy and I, Ray, we would always drive up to Vegas and somebody would do like some sort of live either spreadsheet or live something, and
Hmm.
we would be driving to Vegas and following all the picks and hoping I would get drafted and all that stuff. And
Nice.
then one year I was like, what would be cool is if everybody picks apart everybody's team, and it's always like, oh, you paid too much for this guy, or this guy was a steal or whatever. So I was like, you know what, I can put together, let's just use these prices and put together a team
Hmm.
and compete against other people. So I just sent out a tweet. I'm like, anybody who wants to go head to head, I'll draft my best $200 team
Right.
and versus other people. And all of a sudden, like my DMs just blew up. It's like, this is a great idea. I want to do this. I want to do this. And so my wife and I kind of developed this fantasy pool that we have. And it's
Uh-huh.
the ODB fantasy draft. And it's, I think we're in year 8 or year 9 now. And it's
Hmm.
gone from the first year was 94 people. And now we have like 600 people. Um, that put up
Teams.
entries.
Yeah.
We've got a great website that
Uh-huh.
builds it up and everything. And so basically, that I think just adds like a lot of excitement to it, and
It's awesome.
everybody's, they get drafted on a team, and like we're all kind of cut from the same cloth of, the only reason why we're not playing a professional sport is because we're not gifted enough to do it, but we love the competition and the idea of battling against each other and you know, the World Series and fantasy poker and all those things kind of give you those abilities to do those things. And
Nice.
so I just love it. I mean, still at age 51, I mean, I get super excited months before the World Series. And then, we're just counting down the days
Nice.
before.
How labor intensive is running the fantasy league before draft time, at draft time, because it's a very small window after the players get picked in 25K,
Yeah.
and then just throughout the series.
It's extremely labor intensive for like a week before to a week after, week and a
Mhm.
half after the World Series starts, because I'm constantly um, receiving emails and texts and things. Did you get my entry? Where can I meet you to pay? And all these things. So it's a lot. My wife was, I couldn't do it without her. I would not do this league if she ever didn't want to be involved in it. Um, she handles all the correspondence via email and handles
Nice.
some of the payments, and I collect most of it. At the Rio, we have this guy Stan who does the website for us and 25K Fantasy, and
I guess it's the
um,
horseshoe now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But no, his name's Stan, and it's the 25K.
Okay.
It's 25kfantasy.com is the website,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's just it's fun. It's labor intensive the first week or so. Probably does hurt me a little bit in the tournaments because I'm busy like trying to collect money and worrying about, did I miss somebody just so I don't get, stiffed for 500 or 1,000
Right. Of
here or there.
course.
But
Of course.
it's such a part of it now that it's my way to give back a little bit to the poker community by doing something fun that they all enjoy.
Nice.
Um, so yeah, I
Cool.
mean, Daniel does the same thing. I mean, Daniel puts a lot of work into his 25K, and does he have to do it? No, but he loves it, and it's kind
Oh
of
yeah.
his chance to reunite the poker community before we get, we can all be friends and combatants at the same time.
Right.
Be friendly and do something fun together, and it's kind of our chance to get together and have fun before
Right.
we battle on the felt.
Right. Obviously, winning the bracelet itself is always going to be a thrill. Your first came in 2012 during the 8 game mix. Second came in Limit Hold'em in 2019. I'm wondering, when you look back on those, is there one that you're more proud of, or is the question itself sort of a little misleading or invalid?
Everything has its own place in my heart, honestly.
Mhm.
My highlights of my career, the most fun I've ever had playing poker was in 2010, the main event.
Mhm.
I ended up getting 17th, and it was my first really big run at something like
Right.
special, and all the interviews and everything day after day after day, getting to there. I got I got TV time, and it was great. 2012, I got that bracelet, something that I had been wanting for years. I had been close multiple times. I had some third place finishes, and I finally got over the top. But it was as great and wonderful as it was a little melodramatic, because not melodramatic, that's not the word. Anticlimactic, that's the word I'm
Okay.
looking for.
Mhm.
Um, just because, well, first of all, FETs was, one of my top five friends in poker.
Right.
And as much as many times as people say, "Oh man, let's play heads up. It'd be so much fun to play heads up. Let's get there together, heads up." Like, when you actually get there heads up, and my wife's afraid to clap to offend him, and his girlfriend's afraid to clap to offend me, and his best friend and my best friends are, two. Like, my best friend was Ray Henson, which is, one of FPT's best friends, and Sean Buchanan's one of my good friends, and he's FPT's best friend. And they're sitting there and they can't really cheer for us. And, like, you picture your first bracelet, you're in the Thunderdome and everything's going wild, and we had to actually pause with the two of us left and come back the next day. It was like 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
He had a wedding he was supposed to go to. He missed the flight, couldn't go. Um, and so basically we're in a little stage, and it's, six people on the rail who didn't want to cheer for either of us. And, I win, and, I just, normally you win and it's like, yeah, and
Right.
whatever. And I won, I was like, oh, sorry, man.
Uh,
So that was, it was great to get the monkey off my back and do that. But then I had like so many close calls over from 2012 to 2019. It was
mhm.
like, I just had this monkey on my back, and it's like, am I doing something wrong, or am I just running poorly? But I had so many third place finishes, and you know, uh, it's kind of poker. Like, I mean, some. I mean, I don't want to say that, I don't think that I like wasn't a closer or anything. I think it was a lot of bad fortune, but I'm sure there were things that I was doing that was incorrect. I mean, because I had
Right.
a lot of close calls. So I really just wanted to get that next monkey off my
Mhm.
back. And I'd
Right.
won a WPT earlier that year. And so I fired off a lot of bracelet bets
Yep.
um, that year. And because I was just kind of feeling myself, and, wanted to really just kind of do it for that. And so yeah, then that final table, that whole tournament was kind of a lot easier for me than any tournament I've had. No disrespect to any of the players there, but I got my limit hold'em experience. Was kind of second to none. I mean, I
Mhm.
played more limit hold'em than anybody at that. I mean, I played nonstop at Commerce forever, and I got a big chip lead pretty early. Um, like going into day three, I had a monster chip lead, and then
Right.
I was just able to totally, just do anything I wanted to. And then I got to the final table. There were several inexperienced players.
Mhm.
Plus, I had the chip lead, and I just kind of bulldozed that table. It
Right.
was really good feeling. So that one was great. So yeah, man, a lot of great feelings. I don't think one is necessarily more than the other. I mean, probably the WPT title is probably the best accomplishment I've ever had because I think I'm pretty well respected in the mixed community, but in the no limit community, I never really had like that defining win.
Hmm.
And even though I had gotten close and I had been in a lot of good spots over the years, something just never clicked, and I would always find a way to lose with a
Right.
couple tables left or whatever. So that was
Right.
kind of a big F you to everyone who said that I couldn't win a major no limit tournament. So,
It does dovetail kind of nicely. I got two questions on that in that regard. With the WPT specifically, it was the WPT LA Poker Classic that you had won. You also in 2019, you also won the LA Poker Classic though in 2006. Was there any comparison between those two events? Because obviously one becomes a 10K, it becomes that much bigger, that sort of a thing. So, was there any, I don't know, thoughts going through your mind, any sort of flashbacks, or was it very much a completely different league of events 13 years later?
well, I didn't win the main event at the
Oh, it's a
LAPC.
side event. Okay.
I won a side event. Yeah.
Right.
Um, yeah. I mean, not really. I mean, that was a limit hold'em event. I felt really good in that tournament and
Hmm.
in that discipline. So not really. I mean,
Okay.
I was a whole different person,
Okay.
and the WPT and the cameras, and I my final table had two players who were much better at no limit hold'em than me, and so it was just kind of and at that final table, even though it was 2006 earlier in my career, I thought I was the best player at that table. I mean,
Hmm.
um, so
Okay.
just in general, just I don't know. It's weird because I had a lot of success in no limit tournaments. As far as results, if you just look like my places, I've had a lot of like deep places, but I could not get that defining win, and I don't think, and a lot of it was not things that I was doing wrong. I mean, I ran really salty in a lot of these events. I know that kind of might sound sour grapes. I mean, but I'm the most real poker person that when it comes to being hard on themselves. And there are things that I have done wrong, but I've also taken some really nasty ones when it mattered. So to actually get there and not take a nasty one and to be able to kind of get done what I started,
Yeah.
really, it felt good, and it kind of put a little exclamation point on my resume and career. And
Nice.
I kind of always wanted to be in the Hall of Fame and everything. And that kind of got me a little step closer. I think, the competition's probably too stacked as it is to ever get in, unless I had like a really sick run the last 10 years or something. But just to, kind of be mentioned as possible, thoughts of being nominated is kind of cool. And I think that I needed that WPT
Right.
title and, to kind of at least get in the discussions. So that was kind of, that was kind of cool for me.
Nice. With all of those close calls, though, you would say like the saltiness of whatever. It's understandable because you didn't get to the final table by fluke. You finished second and third, not on the bubble, not far away from the money or anything like that. And those kind of losses, and I can only imagine, when you've been through it, it's obviously kind of difficult to stomach. But there's the nice thing about it is you do you take home a good chunk of change. I'm wondering how long does it take you, you're still a human being after all, even though a professional poker player, to sort of like get over the disappointment of that, get back to your A game, and what sort of lessons, even if it's run bad, what sort of lessons do you try to take away from disappointing bust outs?
Well, I always try to take something away from every tournament I play. And that's why, I can just laugh and think like this guy's not for real when some people make comments like, oh, I'm not going to play that one. It's too small or it's too long a tournament or, oh, I'd rather bust in the first level than make it all the way to the bubble and bust. At least I didn't waste my time. It's like I
Right.
learned something at every tournament, every
Mhm.
stop. Um, I'm been playing $10,000 events for 20 years.
Mhm.
And, last month I decided I just wanted to get some reps in, and I played a $400 tournament at the Win. I came in second. I played a $600 tournament. I played another $600 tournament. I played $1,000 tournament. Meanwhile, I'm foregoing, the 300, 600 cash game that I had because I wanted to get some reps in no limit tournaments
Hmm.
and see how people were playing these days and what they were doing, and just
Right.
kind of get my feel and get more comfortable with some situations.
Hmm.
And did I forego EV, that particular day? Maybe, but maybe it comes back and the summer, at the World Series, I see something or I see somebody that I'd seen in the past at, the Win tournament or whatever, and it helps.
Right. Right.
I came into a situation. I made a play that ended up really wasn't that comfortable with, and I asked a couple people, and they were like, "Yeah, that's probably not the best, um, path there." And so now, I've gotten to, I've played some other tournaments, and since then, and I've had a similar situation, and I've thought back to that period. So at least I made a mistake in $1,000 tournament,
Right.
instead of a big one at the World Series or something like
Sure.
that. So I'm a big proponent of learning from yourself and being extremely critical with yourself. But at the same time, you got to cut yourself a little break sometimes. I mean,
Sure.
some hands are just not meant to be won. Um, so yeah, I mean, I do struggle with the whole thing of the luck.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like a few different cards in my life, could
Hmm.
have had a completely different trajectory. Um, but hey,
Okay.
I'm happy where I am in life, and maybe if those cards came and the trajectory changed, maybe other parts of my life wouldn't be where it is. So,
Right.
um,
A
just have
healthy,
to
healthy
just
way to look
accept
at it,
that.
for
Yeah.
sure.
So luckily, I have an amazing wife, and she, preaches that kind of stuff to me, and some of it's sinking in finally after so many years.
Nice. What do you love about mixed games?
Uh, One, I like the fact that people talk. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
there's a lot more conversation and stuff. Um, Two, I just like to. Just a big try to figure it out type person, and like the more games you have, the more variations of those games, the more things that you can do, try, whatever. Also, I think it really, if you're pretty good, like you can kind of find people who are better or worse at certain games and kind of just improve your all around thing. I find that some people who are just focused on one game, that they kind of miss some of the things that even they could get better in their own game,
Hmm.
by playing other games. I always thought that somebody with a really strong limit hold'em background would be really successful in no limit hold'em. I think you really learn how to make thin value bets. You learn how to make folds with when the pot's laying you large prices. Um, you're just able to just kind of do a lot more things because you've seen so many more hands and you've seen so many situations where the but you never really see no limit hold'em players folding when they're getting 10-1 on a river
Right.
call or something, or 15-1 on a river call. Limit hold'em players do it all the time. I mean,
Right.
that's just kind of what we do.
Right.
You can't be a limit hold'em player if you just need to see every showdown. You're just not gonna win.
Right.
um
Cool.
so yeah, I mean, I just like the variety of it all. The more
Hmm.
games, the better.
So when someone says, "Oh, I learned about this cool new Dramaha Deuce Seven variant," you're like, "Yay!" Or like, "Just get that black the hell out
No,
of here."
no, I don't like the gimmick. The gimmicky games are kind of. I mean, there's enough really good poker games that. I
Okay.
mean, the drama doogie, best double board bomb pot sliding river card
So
nonsense.
a
No, I don't.
mixed
I
game
don't think that.
purist, you would say.
Yeah, for
That,
the most part. I mean, I still enjoy like some of the relatively new games like the Badoogies and Badusis and stuff. But
sure.
um, but yeah, I mean, our mixed game is we play horse, triple draw, Badoogie, Badusi, and then some big bet games, no limit deuce, big O, PLO, no
Hmm.
limit hold'em. So
Yeah.
I mean, those are all basic games. Whereas the game next to us at Resorts World, 8160, they play. they play the carnival mix. Not really my thing, but I do understand that, there's a lot of fun. And I mean, occasionally I'll play those games like online or something. It's a lot of fun to trying to just kind of figure things out.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, most of the carnival games are a lot slower,
Hmm.
and I don't really like the slowness of them.
Right.
But that's kind of my real main complaint with those.
With, I mean, I've railed that big game that you talk about, your regular game, a few times, and there seems to be kind of like a joyful camaraderie beside the cutthroat competition as well. What do you enjoy most about sitting in your regular game at that table?
Well, I enjoy it most when Ellie's on vacation because he destroys me.
I find that particularly
Go ahead. You can go ahead and excerpt that clip and send it to him.
fun.
Uh, no, I mean I enjoy the people. I enjoy the freedom that we have there at Resorts World. I mean, Leon, the poker manager there, has done an amazing job assembling a staff that is friendly and talented and courteous and professional. And they treat us like they're thankful that we're there.
Hmm.
Whereas I can't say that about all the properties. But so I enjoy that. I just enjoy the environment, so it's good. I like the people that play there, for the most part. I mean, we do have our own, um, you know, kind of ribbing on each other thing, which sometimes gets a little too much, but for the most part, it's in good nature and fun. I mean, we actually like each other. I think off the felt. I mean, we try to
Right.
do like once a week. We go out to a dinner. We pause the game at 8 o'clock and all go to a nice restaurant either
That's
at
cool.
resorts or just off property. And yeah, and have like a 2 hour dinner and
Wow.
have drinks and come back and play after that. So we do that probably once a week or maybe 3 times a month.
Hmm.
And so I like that. That's fun. I like the guys and that play, and yeah, it's fun.
Cool. Very nice.
We all bet sports and stuff, so there's always games on, and we
Sure.
don't really like. It's not like sharp picks. So we'll just flip for
Hmm.
sides just so we can watch the games and talk shit and stuff like that. So it's
Sure.
fun, and then also just trying to get a little better at poker and all that stuff. So yeah,
Sure.
it's fun.
And because you mentioned, Leon, he was our guest in our previous episode, number
Oh, really?
124. Folks, you could listen to that one after this one if you happen to have missed it. And Ellie was in number 24, I believe. So a whole bunch of great episodes here on the Cards Chat podcast to listen to. I imagine, folks, we're recording this just before the beginning of the World Series, end of May. I imagine, David, that you may have crossed paths at least a couple times over the years with the late great Doyle Brunson. If that's the case, do you have any particularly fond or interesting memory or a funny story that you might be able to share, or even a hand if you happen to have played against him?
Um, I mean, I've played with him. I played in Bobby's room and played mixed with him. Uh, Nothing in particular. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of tributes to Doyle over, since his passing,
Mhm.
and um, I respect what he built his name and how he helped build poker and everything. But I don't really have any particularly funny stories or anything. He grew up in a different era than me, so
Mhm.
it's kind of. But yeah, we've played and we're cordial and everything. But I wouldn't say like we were, you know, friends or that
Okay.
we even like really interacted that often.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I respect and thank him for what he did to help get the game of poker where it is, and I'm friendly with Todd, and
Mhm.
so yeah, condolences to him and his family.
Sure. Just two more questions of mine before we move into the community questions portion of the show. Got to ask one about the 50K, the Poker Players Championship. It's an event that all the top pros, mixed game pros, all around poker players look forward to every single year. It's an event that has very few, if any, soft spots. The stars just kind of have to align. No, sorry, that's my question. Is it the kind of event where the stars just kind of have to align and you need to run well in spots, or is there a particular strategy that you take into that tournament each year as opposed to the others? You did make a deep run to third place. I think it was 2015.
15,
Yeah,
yeah,
someone.
15.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've I got third in 2015. I
Mm,
cashed last year, and I've cashed I think 3 other years. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think I have a pretty good strategy for that in 8 game tournaments just in general. My first bracelet was an 8 game, and I've had a lot of success in the 8 game variant. I won I think I won either dealer's choice or board 8 game or something at Commerce, and I've had like a lot of success in that variation. Um, and I've done well at the Poker Go Mix series and that. So it's just kind of like a tournament structure that fits my game.
mm,
The the cross between the no limits, pot limits, and the limit games. Um, I think I transition those well, and I'm able to use my image and the table and chip stacks pretty well there. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously it's a great field. I mean, there's not that much dead money in there, but there have been a lot of great players who I consider better than me that haven't had results in the
mm,
tournament. So I don't know if it's necessarily, you know, maybe I've had a little better strategy, or maybe I've just been on the right side of variance with those.
mm.
And there have been a few times where I could have busted and they could have stayed alive and it could have been completely flipped. So that's probably more where it is. But I do feel comfortable in that tournament. I feel like most people who don't think there's value in that tournament are either players that aren't that good or people who don't play in it. It's just
Mm.
kind of like just an easy thing to say, oh, I recognize all the names, but yeah, you recognize all the names, but they're not all, I'm not gonna diss anybody in
Of course.
particular, but they're not everybody that you've heard of is, A+ player. They're all competent. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's very few players that are uh incompetent in that
Right.
field, but there are a lot of weaknesses in different games.
Hmm.
I think they're all good poker players and they all can excel in certain things, but I'll put myself up against most of them in an 8 or 10 game variant, which is constantly causes you to um,
Shift
go back
gears.
and forth in
Right.
styles and games and that. So
Hmm.
I love that tournament. It is my dream tournament to win. Um, Obviously the main, but other than the main, it's it's my number one. I thought I had it in 2015.
Hmm.
Um, I was really close. I was chip leader, and it was me, JRB, and a short stack Gordo, and I doubled him up on a no limit hand, and then he beat me in a stud hand, and then we got even, and then JRB played the wrong game and beat me in a big pot. And next thing I knew, I was out. So it was kind of like a weird situation. One of the many third place finishes that I thought I deserved better. Not
Right.
deserved. That's a stupid thing to say, honestly. That I could have done better,
Sure.
or that if we reran it multiple times, I would have done better more often than not.
Hmm.
um but yeah, it'll always be an event that I hold close and dear to my heart because you win that and you're really just that's such a, especially nowadays with the no limit and PLO in there as well, like you just can't be um you just have to be a well-rounded player
Sure.
um, to get there. So yeah, I
Sure.
mean, hopefully by the time this airs, I'll be a PPC champion.
It certainly could happen. And wishing you best of luck in that tournament. So that's for sure. Well, just again, last question of mine before we move into the community questions. That aside, as a hope, a goal, a dream, something that you want to achieve, just sort of, I guess, to circle back, 20 years of grinding it out, the hard way, and having the challenges that you had to face and stuff. As you said, you're 51 almost, you're in a pretty good spot in your career, and now there's a lot of time, hopefully decades ahead of you, that you're looking forward to just continuing to love and play this game at the felt. What do you hope to accomplish, or is it just a matter of keep winning, hopefully 90-95% of your sessions.
Well, I haven't won 99% of my sessions since 2011. So, I
Uh,
mean, 2001. So, um, no, I mean, I have multiple goals. I mean, so that's kind of a difficult question because I'm not going to be chasing the tournament scene.
okay.
Um, but at the same time, I still do have goals in the tournament scene, even though I'm only going to play a few WPTs a year. I would love to have a second WPT title. I really would like to get up to 5 bracelets, even though I only have 2 now. I think 5 is realistic. 5 bracelets and a WPT title is, a pretty nice resume former. So yeah, I mean, I have a long way to go to do that, but I mean, I don't think it I don't think there's I don't think it's an impossibility for me to win 3 bracelets over the next, 5 years. And then a long shot. I try to go to Europe maybe once a year. At least I did before COVID. Even though it's watered down and diluted from what it was, I still would love to get the Triple Crown. So
Hmm.
I think I'll play Barcelona this year, which is obviously probably the hardest one to win because everybody goes there. It's the
Big
biggest field,
field.
but
Yep.
yeah, it'd be cool to win that.
They'll have one in
But
Cyprus, I think, later this year. So that's a new stop. So you might want to give that one a look as well. It's the whole
yeah,
big room that they have there.
I'm just gonna go wherever my wife wants to go. That's where we go.
Aha. Nice.
Um, but yeah, she wants to go to Barcelona again. We did that once, and it was fun. So we're going to
Cool.
Barcelona. Um, but yeah, as much as I want those things, at the end of it, really all I want to do is try to build up, a bankroll to take care of my wife and my children, um, and just kind of continue to be a well respected and valued member of the community.
Real
Um,
talk. Yeah.
yeah, that's actually really like the most important thing is, just stay solvent and take care of my family and be respected. And um, yeah, I mean that's really it. I mean, I can sit and list all the accomplishments I want to have, but if it comes at the price of my integrity, then it's not really worth it. So I'll try to just keep living a good life and keep being a good person and
Hmm.
hope that the professional accolades come from that.
Nice. No small feat. And I do wish you the best of luck with that. And, you can never say, oh, based on past results, but if past results and past performance is anything to base the future on, I'd say you have a pretty damn good shot at it. So good luck with it. And this is now the segment of the show, folks. We turn to you guys, our Cards Chat community, see what questions you wanted to ask our guests. We do have a dedicated thread on the Cards Chat forums for this. So as we announce who our future guests will be, please be sure to send in your questions. And just a note of clarification, lots of questions came in for David. Thank you all for sending them in. Some of them overlapped with the ones I prepared. Some of them David has already addressed. So we'll try to get to as many as we can that, I guess uncover some new ground. Takis 30 has an interesting one. I'll rephrase it slightly. David, do you ever, or was there any point at which you regretted leaving your previous job to become a poker pro?
Um, no, not really. I mean, yeah, there've been struggles in poker. I've gone close to broke or been broke for a few weeks or whatever. There've been times where I had to borrow like small amounts of money, but I always really rebounded nicely. I've never really been in like a broke doldrum for like a long period of time or anything, or had to get like backing or anything. Um, so no, I mean there've been a lot of struggles with it,
Mm.
and but at the end of the day, I just did not enjoy, working. So I mean, I work hard now. I mean, I'm not. When I say that, I mean tongue in cheek, but I mean, I work. I work. I mean, if there are a lot of poker players who don't work, and
Mm.
they act like they work or they think they work and they don't put in the hours. I put in the hours. I work my ass off. But it's something that I truly love. Like I said from the beginning, I mean, I love the game of poker and I love the community,
Mm.
and I didn't really love my job. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's nice to be secure and whatever, but I've always kind of been able to handle the ups and downs of the financial part and the leaving and coming back and doing all those things, um, to actually enjoy what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Cool. This one comes from Mario Sika 88. Thanks for submitting this one. And we'll, of course, give you an out if you don't want to answer this question. It's totally fine. What was the highest buy-in tournament that you ever played on your own dime?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I always sell a little bit of most things just because there was a time where like I needed to sell and some people were there for me,
Mhm.
and I always kind of felt like they were there, they took chances on me and were there for me when I needed them.
Mhm.
So I don't really want to strip them of high equity spots that maybe I've gotten into because they may have taken less equity spots early to be good to me. So I try to sell as much as I can, and not as much as I can, as to some people that I like.
Right.
So nothing was very little over the last bunch of years has been 100% my own
Mhm.
dime. Although I I haven't been backed in one tournament in my life. I've always put up my own money and just maybe sold, you know, whatever, anywhere from 10 to 30%.
Mhm.
I usually sell like 40 to 40% of the 50K. Um, Back when Bellagio had the WPT 25Ks, I don't really think I sold then. I think it was too early in my career. I don't even think I really understood the selling market. Really wasn't as big as it was. So I played the 25Ks there on my own.
Mhm.
I probably satellited into to them. Satellites were really big at that time. I don't really necessarily remember if I did on both of them, but it's probably likely that I did. But I would always sell a package to the World Series, and it's kind of always been my belief to kind of value those people who to value the investors. So,
Mhm.
for the last bunch of years, I've had a couple people who were there from the beginning that would always just buy a piece. Um, and nowadays, I could easily just say, "Hey, I'm going to take everything 3,000 and under, and I'll give you pieces of the 10Ks or something." But I always just felt like, if they're going to take kind of the stuff that's less EV, that I should give them the other stuff too. So this is kind of how I've lived my
Mhm.
philosophy wise. And when people offer and they want to sell packages of the World Series, if they don't offer me the main event, I don't even consider them. Like they
Mhm.
have to, if I'm going to take pieces of you and the things that are, you know, less reward up top and less
Right.
overall EV, I want the ticket to paradise.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. For sure.
so yeah, that's just kind of how I've always approached it. So I don't think there's a lot that I've played 100% on my own, but
Mhm.
I always have a significant amount of my action. I never one time been backed in any tournament that I can remember. There may have been one or two, but for the most part, I'm just put up my own money and sell to friends, or a lot of times I just trade. Like, I mean, nowadays in the World Series, I only really have like a couple people that still buy, and they don't even buy that much. And then I just take like big chunks and trade with, a couple of my best friends, and
Mhm.
I'll always
Nice.
play for like 70 or something.
Thanks so much for being so open. Like that's just an area that there isn't always so much public talk about. So it's fascinating to sort of, get a little bit of a behind the scenes look of what does that world look like, and also just frankly your reasons for why you would or wouldn't. That's really fascinating. Thanks for being such an open book about that.
Yeah,
Um,
no problem.
Chica Bonita has a question for you about your results in tournaments thus far this year. Again, we're before the World Series. Chica Bonita asks, it seems that you've had a pretty good year thus far tournament-wise, in particular at the PGT Mixed Game Series. Have you made any notable adjustments to your game this year as opposed to last year?
Well, first of all, thank you for noticing. But yeah, I really have had a good start, and it really gives me. I know we're not, people may not hear this till the World Series has already started, so this is either going to come off as uh, wrong or right. But I really feel good about where my tournament game is right now. I haven't played that many tournaments, but I've had a lot of success. I came in second in the 10K horse at PGT and third in the 25K
Yeah. Two
main
six-figure
event.
scores right there. Yeah.
Yeah, and almost one player of the series. I was one spot away at the PGT, and then I went to Sacramento and played the WPT there. I got 14th. I went to Hard Rock in Miami and got fourth in two events, and then got a big chip stack in the main event and got coolered a couple times. But and then I had some good results at the win, even though they're showing up on the other David Baker's Hendon Mob. But I came in, I played four tournaments there, and I had three top 20 finishes. So yeah, I think I don't know if I've made adjustments or I'm just kind of like I told you at the beginning, I try to be completely honest with myself. And I've had
Right.
two poor World Series in a row, and that's probably the only time in my life that I had 2 years in a row that were not very good. The first year was the COVID year that
Hmm.
was started in November. I was big into football. Football was a huge distraction, and I think I was just kind of, I think we had just moved here maybe, and I really was not that focused. I got discouraged very quickly. And then
Hmm.
last year, I don't really think I don't really think I played that great. And when I say I didn't play that great, I think I played fine. But what I didn't do was handle losing hands very well. And I think that's a key. And it's a key to me is keeping my emotions in check.
Hmm.
When I've had all my biggest years, I'd never punted a tournament. If I lost chips and I got down to half stack or quarter stack or 10 blinds or six blinds or three antes, it didn't matter. I fought for every chip. I fought for every tournament that
Yeah.
I was in. And I found myself last year when I really took a hard look at myself and evaluating my play that even though I think I played fine to a certain point, whenever I would lose a hand and it would take me from a lot of chips to medium chip stacks or medium to short, I would just be like, well, there it is again. I knew I couldn't keep, this going forever.
Hmm.
Okay, I get what's next on the schedule, checking the phone. Well, I still got chips.
Uh-huh.
And I think this year I've just kind of made a concerted effort to really try to focus on each event and not really think about where I could be or where,
Hmm.
I might be, and just kind of really just kind of take it all, one step at a time, and also just kind of like going for it. I feel like I really have, kind of gone for it and done, you know, I don't really go for it that often, even though, like, contrary to what, if you've seen like a few of my, TV things, like I've had some big bluffs and big punts and things like that. For the most part, they're very few and far between. But like when I really feel confident about it, like just pulling the trigger.
Hmm.
Um, and so like that's kind of helped a little bit. And I don't know. I just feeling good about like myself and my game and my thought process and
Nice.
everything. So yeah, I have a
Nice.
lot of confidence. I have a lot of confidence going in this World Series.
Cool. Very good. And insightful question there from Chica Bonita. Najisami wants to know, David, what's your relationship with online poker? How often did or do you play online?
My relationship with online poker is I'm a massive loser. I've lost in every site that's ever been created, every ecosystem, every game. I'm just a big, massive punter.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
That being said, I've gotten deep a bunch in these World Series bracelet events over the last few years, even though
Oh,
there haven't
nice.
been that many, and I've had a bunch of top 20, 30 finishes. Haven't been able to close any of them, but put myself in those spots. I play a couple of the app games now, but I'm not like a slave to it. I'm not very good at them, and I'm probably a losing player.
Okay.
Um, but I think there's still things you can learn and gather by doing that. Um, so I don't know. Online's not really my thing. I'm a live player.
Hmm.
I'm not a GTO player. I'm more of a look this guy in the face and they don't have it, they have it.
Right.
This is what I think they have. How can I extract value? How can I get them to fold? Whatever the situation. That's just kind of me. I'm not a, oh, 36% of the time I'm supposed to check, 12% of the time I'm supposed to bet third pot, and 40% of the time I'm
Mhm.
supposed to bet three quarter. That let me look at my watch and see what the seconds say. That's not me. I'm just like, you have it, you don't, like, whatever.
Well,
That's
I'm
so
not a professional, and most of our audience obviously are serious recreational players, and I'm not, obviously I understand the value of poker training and the math and stuff, but I gotta say, I'm a field player as well, and it feels damn good to hear from a field player who manages to be successful at the highest level. So thank you for that reassurance that there's more than one path to the top. I appreciate
for
that.
sure, for sure. I've always said that there are a lot of, like one of my things that, like, when people ask me, like, well, what's the best style, whatever, it's like there are a lot of different styles to win in poker. Like, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. There are a lot of different styles in poker. It really doesn't matter what style you play, in my opinion. It just matters to be good at your style. Like, you
Right,
have to understand, like, most of the, yeah, when I go to a table, my thought process is not what do I think of this player, what do I think of this player. It's what does this player think of me,
mm,
and how can I combat what they think of me.
right.
Um, so that's kind of my style. I consider myself a chameleon at the table. And, funny enough, yesterday in my cash game, somebody was asking me, like, what's the key to tournaments? Like, are you loose? Are you tight? And it's like, yes, I'm both. I mean, I can be the tightest player at the table. I can be the loosest player. I can be the most aggressive. I can be the most passive. Um, I have a style that is just all over the place. Like, it's just everything. And you could ask 20 respected pros what they think of me, and you're going to get a lot of different answers, just because I don't have a certain style. I don't
Right,
think. I
right,
think that I'm very adaptable, and I
right,
think the key to being, a successful player is just being adaptable.
for sure.
And so yeah, that's kind of my MO, I think.
Cool. You said earlier in the podcast that you're very close with your daughter, so I hope it's okay to ask Nata 777's question. How would you feel if your daughter chose a career in poker following the example of her father?
Oh, well, my daughter's not good at poker, so I would feel very worried for her and for us and for our future. Um, and my stepson has asked me many times to teach him and help him, but I've seen his play and the way that he thinks and about
Oh,
poker,
good.
and I don't think it. I don't think it's in his future, so I just don't. And hopefully, like, I just don't want them to fall in love with the game, because look, I love what poker has done for me. I love where I am because of poker. And if
Mhm.
there's somebody who has the aptitude and the ability, and they're showing something from the beginning, I wholeheartedly support your choice to play poker. I absolutely love this game, and there's a lot of good things about it. That being said, it's a very, 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 very hard life and a
Mm,
hard profession. And I really wouldn't want my kids to do it,
mm,
but mainly that's just because my kids are who my kids are. I mean,
mhm.
if my kid really showed an aptitude for it, then I would fully encourage and love and support it. But I don't think that's where any of my children's brains kind of, that, like, that's the way that their brain thinks. I think you have to have a certain type of brain thought process to be able to be real successful in this business. Even players who are good, like, struggle. I mean, it's very hard. It's very, very, very hard. You have to have tremendous discipline and skills and uh, wherewithal, and you just have to have so many, you know, so much armor to be able to get through it
Right,
all.
right,
So,
right,
um, you have to have it and be ready for it to, for me to really recommend you going into it.
for sure. Acid Burn FX has an interesting question for you. If you had a special ability for 1 hour, what would that ability be and why?
Ability for 1 hour.
If you had 1 hour that you had special powers of some sort.
I have no idea, but I mean, I could answer a variation of this because we were actually talking about it last night, and I've said it. But if I could have one ability just in life
Okay.
that I don't have now, and it sounds silly, but it would be the ability to sleep. I don't sleep very well, and
Wow.
I play a lot of late nights, and I wake up
Hmm.
early, and I have trouble falling asleep. I have trouble staying asleep.
Hmm.
Um, I have trouble napping, and just kind of all those things. I think it would really help me perform better as a poker player and just be a
Wow.
happier person if I had the ability to sleep.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know. It's not the question that was asked, but
Oh, it's very
um,
interesting. Wow. Goodness. Okay.
I would love to be able to sleep. I would love to be able to get on a plane and close my eyes and sleep for 4 hours. I
Wow.
would love to be able to get home from bagging a tournament at 2 o'clock and get in bed and be asleep by 2:30. Like now,
Wow.
I get into bed at 2 and I fall asleep at 4 or 5.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
just annoying when you have to get up the next day.
Right.
Phil Hellmuth's like, oh yeah, I left my chips there. I went and took a 45-minute nap during dinner. I feel great. And it's like, well,
He also
okay, I
seems to
couldn't
have
take.
some sleep issues, waking up at interesting hours as
Yeah,
well.
but just in general, I'm just saying, like, if I had the ability to just sleep on command,
Yeah.
that would
It,
that's a skill that I would pay a lot of money for.
I hear that. Well, thankfully, that's something that I have that I can assure you that is a big blessing when you need to. Um, nasty bent. We've got three more questions or so. Is that okay? We got time?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Nasty bent gorilla. It's a cute question here. Do you wear any lucky article of clothing or have any sort of superstition when making final tables? And if so, has it worked?
That's funny that you say that because my wife and I used to have this whole thing about that. I had lucky shirts. Um, so I do have a couple of like two two tournaments like early in the early rise of my career where I really had shots to have like big life-changing scores. I was wearing green shirts and I took beats
Mhm.
and I took beats and I busted. And now I will just never wear anything green when I'm playing,
Interesting.
um,
Okay.
because green just like it just sticks out that I was wearing. Like I didn't even have many green shirts, but I wore green like in two big spots
Mhm.
and uh, and lost. I used to have like uh, I used to wear this one blue T-shirt on day twos of World Series events. Um, I used to have like lucky shirts, but now I just have the same shirt. Like
Uh-huh.
I got like 20 black of these and 20 blue of these.
Okay.
I usually try to wear black on day one and blue on day two, but
Uh-huh.
um, it's not hard and fast anymore because most of my day twos turn into day ones anyway, and because you bust day two and you just go register for the next event. So,
Right.
um, but no, I mean that's basically it. They used to make fun of me. Ray and my wife used to always make fun of me, and it's like, oh, is that a lucky shirt today? But yeah, I mean, if I like, I've got probably like 15 or 20 different hoodies. If I go to the World Series this year and on day two or day three, I take beats with the same hoodie, like in two different tournaments, I can guarantee you that hoodie will never be worn again. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Okay.
if you see me deep in a tournament in a hoodie and then you'd like read a bad beat, you probably won't find a picture of me in that hoodie again for a little while. I might give it one more test if I really like it, but
Okay. Crystals has one for you. If you don't want to answer specifically for dealer's choice picking purposes, you can say which category, draw, flop, or stud. Wants to know what's your strongest variant of poker. And again, you could say if you prefer a particular category of games instead.
um, I get asked this question a lot, so I don't. So I think my strongest game is like Badoogie, Limit Hold'em, single draws. Um, but I think my strongest quality as a poker player and in these mixed events and things is my ability to really just understand what games you're not as proficient in
Mm.
and be choose those to play against you and what games you are proficient in and kind of stay a little bit more out of your way in those. So I think I'm just really good at everything but I might not be elite at anything other
Mm,
than maybe limit hold'em. And I think I'm pretty good. I think I'm pretty elite at Badoogie too, honestly. But so it's more just what I can like do. I don't know. I like PLO 8 a lot too. I don't play it very often, but at World Series events and tournaments, I do enjoy it, and I've done pretty well in those.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, nothing in particular I can tell you I
Okay.
don't like. I don't like stud 8 or better. I don't
Okay.
like. So I know a lot of mixed game players like that. I don't really care for that game too much. I'm not very good
Hmm.
at it. So,
Okay.
so if you're playing dealer's choice and you want
I
to
will
get me,
call that
that's
on you.
probably
Yes,
good.
in the
That's a good
1500
pick.
list trust.
I'll be there.
We've got a couple Kun Aguero. Okay, so we'll switch from poker to betting. Kun Aguero Cruz says you won the Westgate Super Contest in 2019. Do you have any sports betting tips you could offer?
Yeah, don't sports bet. Um, Honestly, the biggest tip that I could give a sports better or people who want to bet sports is find another network of people that you trust and
Mm,
try to have like a group of people that you feel comfortable that you can text out and say, hey, these are the games I like on Sunday for football or tonight for basketball or whatever, and try to do as much juice-free betting as you can.
right.
Um, the sites and the casinos and everything, they're just out to destroy us. I mean, really, it's unless you have like top quality knowledge, and even if you do, like you're not able to get to the number before it moves. You just can't overcome the juice. I mean, juice betting is a dead it's dead. I mean, and it's getting more and more legal, and there's more and more places, and it's going to bankrupt more and more people.
Hmm.
I do love betting, I do love sports gambling, but the reality is you just can't win. You cannot win in sports betting. So yeah, I enjoy these contests and things because there's fun, there's strategy. You get to still pick and root, and you have a finite amount that you can lose
Right.
at the end of the contest. So I like that. But if you do actually want to bet sports, is I don't bet with juice. I have 5 to 10 people that play, that like to bet football, and I'll send them like who I like, and they'll send me who they like,
Right.
and um, if we're on opposite sides, then we just take the big free middle. Just even like with props and stuff, sometimes like I have a couple guys who like, well, they'll just send me a prop and most of the time, like also if you do this and you do have a group of people that you like to bet with, if you don't really have an opinion on a game and you don't care and the money's not like that big or anything to you, just give your friends action on games that
Right.
they want. And if they'll do that for you, because there might be a game you really like and you might not be able to find like somebody who likes the other side, but you can always find somebody who maybe is ambivalent to the game.
Hmm.
And if you've taken action from them in a neutral situation for you, then they might give it back to you.
Solid
Um,
tips. I like these. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, so that's kind of my biggest tip. If you're betting with the casinos, um, just don't, like, you just can't beat them. And also if you're betting sports and you try not to do things on credit, try not to deal with
Mm,
bookies, just because I feel like a majority of sports bettors are chasers, and it's the quickest way to just chase yourself into a debt that you don't need or want. And um yeah, so I mean, at least if you bet in the casino, like the money's gone. Like, you go and you put down 1,000 on whatever on the Raiders and they lose, like it's gone. When it sits in an account and you have to look at that minus 1,100 balance, and you're like, "Whoa, well, I don't really have an opinion on this Chargers Chiefs game, but it's the next game, so I'll bet
yeah.
it." And then next thing you know, you're chasing half times. So my
Wise
biggest my
words.
biggest suggestion is, yeah, just don't have sports accounts.
Wise words. We'll end off since you mentioned props and stuff. Well, Maddie Bumpo wants to know what is the most outrageous prop bet you have ever participated in?
Uh, I don't really have those. Honestly, I don't really do many
Really?
of those
Oh
prop bets.
wow,
Yeah.
that's surprising for
Um,
some reason.
yeah. I don't know why. It's just usually if people offer you a bet, they're going to win. And if you
Okay.
offer a bet and they take it, you're probably going to lose. Like it's just, I don't know. Uh, I would just say no. I mean, the one thing that I have done successfully is I had this one guy that I couldn't beat in golf. It didn't matter what. I always felt like he had the best of it, or he was gonna like the match was never really. I never felt comfortable with the match, and he just kept consistently beating me over and over again. So a year ago, next week, I gave a friend of mine, Josh Aria, which I'm sure you guys know. I gave him
Sure.
a $5,000 free roll. If I bet with our mutual friend on the golf course over the next year, I'd give him $5,000 for free. And I have not bet with said friend in the year, so
Wow.
I did not have to give Josh 5,000.
Okay.
I just had to do something to stop myself from betting. So
Wow, that'll
uh,
do it.
yeah, so that was but not really a prop bet, but just a little bet.
Is
That's
it the
kind of fun.
pain of having to hand over $5,000 for free? That's really what it is.
Well, I mean, yeah, no, I'm not gonna. I don't want to get five, especially because if I take the bet, I'm probably losing it anyway. This guy just always beats me. So,
That's fair. That's fair. Folks, thank you so much for sending in your questions to David ODB Baker. Again, a friendly reminder to all of you out there in the Cards Chat community. We'd love to see you submit your questions for our future podcast guests in the dedicated thread on the forums. Guys, please be sure to give us a good review on iTunes and spread the word via your social media channels if you like the show. David, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. It's been very fun getting to know you a little better. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the Cards Chat audience before we let you go?
no, just thank you for having me on, and I'm always glad to see people help spread and do good things for poker, and especially in our subculture of the mixed game world. So you've done some good things with
Oh, thank
that,
you.
trying
Thank you.
to get that out there, and um, you're never you're never too deep in your poker career to learn some new games, and there's never don't think that like something's too small or too big or whatever for you. Like play what you're comfortable with, and I think that's part of the problem in the mixed game community is barrier to entry is really high. There's not that many low stakes games, and I know you do a good job of bringing low stakes things to the resorts world and
Thank
to
you.
other areas, and that's important to help grow a game. Also, if you want to try to, if you've played a little bit of mixed games before and you understand the game, but maybe you want to get better at it, one thing that I would suggest is play some of these 1500 variants. I know 1500 is a lot, but it's really not in a lot of poker senses. I wasn't that good at mixed games when I first started playing, and I started playing World Series events. And I can still remember in, I think it was 2010, I got deep in 3K horse event, and I played 2 days with Phil Ivey. And I just remember just like watching him and seeing the things that he was doing and just taking note in my head and like, oh, that's something I never thought of. And just watching, you're able to watch players, and when good players or perceived good players do something, immediately like don't just think, well, that was stupid. That doesn't
Mm,
make any sense. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense, and sometimes it is stupid. And sometimes you'll realize like that everybody that you think might be these superstars, they're not perfect in every situation. But there also might be a reason why they did it. So maybe go and talk to somebody, or
mm.
maybe sit and think about it, or get out cards and run it, or just whatever. Just sit around and think about why did they do that? Does that make sense? Should I be incorporating that in my game? You can get a lot better really quick. Big um it's a big jump in hands played. Like if you just sit at a Raz table and you get lucky enough to play with
You had to
somebody
say
who's really
Raz,
good.
huh? God, I love that's not my
I love
favorite game.
Raz. I love Raz. Raz is one of my favorite games. Raz is by far my favorite stud variant. Not even close. I have a third, a second, and a fifth, and I got a lot of Raz final tables. I enjoy the game of Raz, but just in general, like whatever game it is, just watch and see what people are doing. And
Mm.
I still do that today. I mean, I've been in this business 20 years. I got more hands than some people that I'm watching and taking notes from and learning what they do and trying to add things that they've done. So if you can afford it and you're not too negative VV. I mean, if you're playing a $1,500 tournament and you're just a little bit below average, I mean, you're probably only giving up like 150 in equity or whatever, to like, even if you're worth like zero point 0.9 or whatever on an open market or something, like paying $150 for hours of lessons and watching hands and being able to note hands to be able to go back and talk to your group about, or your home game, or whatever, that experience is worth that. So that would be my major suggestion there.
Awesome. Love it. And I've played a couple 1500s myself. I can definitely confirm those are, like you said, you get to play with a Phil Ivey. You normally can't play in nosebleed stakes, but you get to play with all these experienced players. Confirmed. Not that he needs any amount of confirmation, but as someone who would receive advice like that, it definitely resonates. Thank you very much, David. Superb. ODV David Baker. Thank you all for tuning in once again to another episode of the Cards Chat podcast. I'm Robbie Straczynski. You can follow me on Twitter at CardPlayerLife. I wish you all a wonderful day. Cards Chat, the friendliest poker podcast in town from the world's #1 poker community.